Well, Adib Sani, thank you for staying on the conversation. On the passage of time, we have to make tracks. So I'm going to start the conversation on the IGP with you. What do you make of proceedings so far when it comes to COP Alex Mensah and the cohort of three, basically, who have been appearing before that committee, that parliamentary probe? What do you make of happenings so far?
Much for the opportunity. From day one, I knew the committee would deliver based on the caliber of membership, members of the committee. And when they started the sitting, the line of questioning gave me more hope. So I'm not surprised that a rather simple case of verifying the authenticity of a tape, investigating a conspiracy behind the removal of an IGP for political expedience, and of course, looking into other matters, that borders on the tape and perhaps making recommendations has become much more complex than we thought, because new issues have arisen, and it's only necessary that the committee follows all the leads. So in the end, we would have a holistic understanding of what the issues really are within the police service. And I don't know whether you have cited the new videos that is making rounds on social media in which...
Are you talking of the Bugri Nabu videos?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In which he contended that he's been paid about 10,000 Ghana cedis by the police for the security, in his words, for the security work he's doing. And there was also talk about a certain contract involving, I think, about 40,000 boots. We need to know what the issues are. So possibly the committee has to follow up and get all of those persons whose voices were heard in those videos, so they appear before the committee, then we are able to make meaningful headway. So far, I must say it has been remarkable, and I'm hoping that they follow all the leads, and in the end, we would understand what really is going on.
Just a quick follow-up. The body language, the responses, the likes of COP Mensah, some have said he's even been a bit bombastic, arrogant in front of the parliamentary committee. What do you make of how those who have appeared before the committee so far, we'll get to the IGP, but those who have appeared so far, including Bugri Nabu, how do you feel they have fared in their deportment, and whether it has helped the entire probe?
Well, I'm a body language expert. I'm able to look at your mannerism, your posture, and I'm able to tell whether you are lying or telling the truth. Indeed, your lips could be lying, but your face, your hands could be telling the truth, okay? So in a lot of scenarios, and I'll be very specific, when Bugri Nabu said he recorded the thing for the president, I knew instantly he was lying. I knew it. And when the hearing started for COP George Alex Mensah, he started by contending that the whole tape was, fake. Then it was back and forth. Then he said, okay, part of the tape was fake. And they said, okay, fine. If part of the tape is fake, what it means is another part is genuine. That is after he was made to listen to the tape again. So tell us which part of the tape is genuine. Then the questions started flowing, and in the end, he answered all questions relating to the whole tape. Okay, so these guys are experienced and they know what they are doing. The body language, well, it appears he has his own frustrations. I don't know why or how, but surely he looks bitter. Okay, and I think it's unfortunate, because if you work for the Ghana Police Service at that very top level, and you are bitter about certain happenings, Then and I think it's good that these issues are coming up, and as we progress, we would get to hear all that matters and is in the interest of the public.
Okay. Let me come into the studio. Dr. Kwapong, what do you make of proceedings so far with those that have appeared? We'll get to the IGP because he takes his turn there today. But I want us to exhaust Bugri Nabu and the three others, Sari, Mensah, who have showed up, and the things they have said. What's your reaction?
It's very concerning. Some of the things they have said, some of the issues that they have raised, some of the alleged grievances, some of the issues that they are taking with the IGP and his role, what he does, doesn't do. They are very concerning. And I think for me, the most concerning part of that tape is what it is that they were supposedly alleging plotting to do, right? Which is, how do you get the IGP out of office so that you can ensure in the upcoming election a particular political party prevails? That for me is extremely concerning because our goal is always to have a free and fair election. We expect those who play a role in ensuring that freeness and fairness of our elections will do so in a way that is not prejudiced, that is without fear or favor to any particular side contesting, in that election. And so I'm very happy that the parliamentary committee is probing this to get to the bottom of it. And hopefully, when all is said and done, they'll get all the answers. And then whatever particularly disciplinary action that needs to be taken will be taken.
Mm. And in terms of, we were just talking about judges. Mm-hmm. Even if you are political, mm-hmm. don't let your political coloration impact the work you do. Here we are with members of the police service. And there too, if we are to stick to what COP Mensah is saying, there is a clear delineation. There are MPP police officers and NDC police officers, per what he's saying. And he says, to the committee, I am political. And then he goes on to cite that someone, Asemesi, left the police service, and we all know, whom he's talking about. And a few weeks later, the person was, contesting on the ticket of the party in Parliament. And that it even takes a number of years before you can, as a card-bearing member, before you can do something like this. So what does that mean? How dangerous is that?
Very. And you see, for me, you should see in institutions like this, you should see yourself first as part of that institution. So instead of you saying, I'm an NDC policeman or I'm an MPP policeman, you should say to yourself, I am a policeman first of all. Yes, I do have political leanings, but in the discharge of my duty, what is the key thing that drives me when I'm called to go and keep the peace somewhere? Do I go as a policeman first, or do I go as a policeman wearing my party colors? Because if you do that, and let's put it in the context of the allegation on the tape, which is the whole election thing. So let's say you say to yourself, I'm an MPP policeman, mm-hmm. and then in election, there's serious disturbance in a particular constituency. Are you going to look at it and say, well, this confusion is going to benefit my political side, so as a policeman, I'm not going to go there and keep the peace? That would be a dangerous thing to do, right? Which is why, for me, regardless of your political colors, in institutions like this, your first responsibility is to the profession and is to your duty. And you discharge it in a way that is very, very impartial, regardless of how you feel or do not feel about the other political players in the space.
Okay, so preliminary thoughts on that as well for you, Mr. Paintsel, before we start focusing on the IGP and his appearance. On the different scenes we've seen, the commentary that has been brought to bear, the body language, the sort of remarks that have been made, and the whole context of everything that is happening. Mr. Paintsel.
I think I must confess that I have not been watching the proceedings at all.
Have you listened?
Apart from what I get on social media, in other words, the reports of what transpired. So, unlike the experts who have been doing the body language and all that, I'm not in a position to do that. But I think what is worrying, I want to join the chorus by saying that what is absolutely worrying is the seeping, the opening of politics into every facet of our national life. It is very dangerous. I think we've got to the point where we can't deny it. And it is true, we see it in everyday life, in the way we do everything around us. And possibly, all I can say is that it's about time that we start down as a country and begin to look at this phenomenon and see how we can work towards eliminating it. I recall, and let me put it this way, you remember that when President Kufuor became president, he was the first president to try and look outside his political party to integrate one or two politicians from other political parties into his government. And I know there was a lot of hue and cry and so forth and so on. After that, nobody even attempted even to do that. And so what it means is that we've got ourselves into camps, and every camp we are solidifying the foundations and whatever. And if we are not careful, this is how this country is going to be built. What it means is that we cannot even have people who are apolitical, people who have no necessary political attachment or affiliations to a political party except exercising their franchise or mandate on elections and stuff. So I think it's food for thought, because it has the level at which this has arisen. And it shows in everything. When it comes to scholarships, it is the party time. They will give you to their people. And you see, that's why transparency, at the end of the day, we have got Right to Information Act and all of this. People must begin to use it. I've always tried and told myself, for instance, can I apply, for instance, the National Scholarship Secretariat for us to bring out all the people who qualify to go on listing for this particular year? And possibly by looking at it, we'll know who is related to which political party appointee and so forth. Because that is how, it's what we call one change. This is what has become in this country. And so even the police service now, depending on who and where you belong to, then you can get this. And you know, even though we talk about perception, it is my fear that if we don't descend to the ground and begin to study the results of what we call perception and make prescriptions to resolving these issues, my friend, this country, I wouldn't know.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. I want us to wrap with the IGP, and then, of course, we'll head into the next leg of our conversation, which also has to do with the political parties and what they are saying. But coming to the IGP, it's interesting. Again, you can go to Joy News on Facebook. The question was posed there. On a scale of 1 to 10, rate the performance of IGP Dr. George Akuffo Dampare in the police service. And almost all the responses I've seen are saying 10 over 10. In fact, someone says, Gideon Mensah says 20 over 10, if that's even a... then there's Bekure Crispin, 100 over 100, 10 over 10. Most people are saying the IGP. The least I've seen is a 9 over 10. And I find that, you know, interesting. A lot of people, someone says, until it bites you, you will not know. Only one person, I've seen an 8+ as well. That is the context. And we have about 300 responses here, and that is what people, by and large, are saying. Adib, when it comes to the IGP's appearance today before the parliamentary probe, what are you expecting to hear, and how do you feel about basically claims that he set up his colleagues in the police service, the COPs, who have been mentioned, Asari, Mensah, among others, and the interdiction and the withdrawal of the interdiction? What do you make of all of it? What are you looking forward to hearing this morning? Though it's in camera, what are you hoping will emerge from that session?
Well, the issues surrounding the IGP is what can best be described as a cacophony of issues. Indeed, the committee's work would be incomplete without the IGP appearing. And there's no denying the fact that the IGP has worked tirelessly to improve policing in the country. These days, Benji, I'm sure when you come out, at almost every traffic intersection you get to before you get to work, you see a lot of these officers on motorbikes at those intersections, right? We've seen the establishment of the cold case unit, the revamping of the horse patrols, the canine units, etc. A lot has happened. But let me tell you, the police has two faces. The external face, which you and I are privy to, the good work the IGP is doing, the accountability we are seeing in the police service, etc. However, there's this other internal phase that you and I might not be privy to, which has a lot to do with administration and the IGP's ability to galvanize support from his subordinates so they are able to work together. There are complaints from the police service, and I have a lot of police friends from the very lower to the very top ranks. I get calls from them telling me about a lot of happenings within the police service, which I might not necessarily be able to say on air because some of them bother on national security, okay? There's a lot of disgruntled senior officers within the police service and a lot of other officers who feel they've been shortchanged by the system and deserve better. A whole lot of them, almost on daily basis, I have at least 5 calls from police officers.
What kinds of things do they share with you? I mean, are they in the negative as far as the IGP is concerned?
Absolutely.
Negative.
Absolutely. Yes. And it has to do more with administrative issues, issues of undeserving promotions, those who deserve it haven't been promoted, issues of officers not able to talk again. In the past, you remember when there's any issue, like, for example, as you've assembled us today, there would be a representative from the police service. If you are thinking as Ata, Kwesi Ofori, and the rest. But these days, nobody is able to
it's been centralized.
Even at the Sorry?
It's been centralized.
Absolutely, it's been centralized. And when the media have also complained to me about when they need information, they are asked to refer to statements, which sometimes is ambiguous and you might not actually be able to connect the dots until you make a follow-up, at the police, then they would clarify. Unfortunately, that is not the case. And like I indicated, there are a whole lot of other I wouldn't be able to put it out here because it borders on national security, okay? But what I am also very concerned about is what COP Georgia.
Adib, I keep losing you. The connection keeps going on and off.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Please go ahead.
He says if you want information about the tape, go for the full-length version from the IGP because he actually is the brain behind all of it. I find it very remarkable, and there's a need for us for an investigation to be done to confirm whether indeed what he's saying is the truth or not. Because
I was going to get into that, but since you started, go ahead.
Good. So we've gotten another tape from Bugri Nabu, which he confessed, saying that the IGP allegedly sent some 2 officers to his office to get it back because he doesn't know anything about computers. So there are a whole lot of questions that need answers.
But is the suggestion not that Bugri Nabu is an informant for the police service on a number of issues? Basically, for example, the 10,000 that is mentioned, that it is the police service that is giving it to him, not as an informant of sorts, not the IGP.
Good. So the question is, on what basis? Because according to him, he's a chief and he does security work for the police. You understand? And already there were some who expressed concerns about the police's, the IGP is dealing with Bugri Nabu and that he got him to set them up and all that. And you see, when you look at the nuances, there are certain connections you can make. But I wouldn't want to run before I walk. That is why it is imperative that we listen to the side of the IGP. And like I indicated, my only disappointment is in the fact that it's going to be in camera. Because a lot of the allegations made against him was in public. And I would have expected that they do it hybrid, in public, so he gets to clear his name with respect to those allegations that is lingering the minds of a lot of Ghanaians. And the in-camera, if whatever information he's going to give is not meant for the public, but for us to constrict it to in-camera is what I find unfortunate and unfair, especially to the IGP.
Okay. You feel this is unfair to the IGP. If I were to just indulge me here, I'm pushing you to what has been put on Facebook. If I were to ask you, with everything you know about the IGP, to give him a score so far, your score over 10, what would it be?
I would at the beginning of the year I would have given him 9 over 10, but now I'll give him 7 over 10.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Adib Sani. Adib Sani is a security analyst. Thank you so much for having joined the conversation. Let me come to you, Dr. Champong. Quickly on the same point, I want us to move to the EC bits. What are your expectations, Dr. Kwapong? What are your expectations ahead of the parliamentary probe today? And maybe when you end, give me your score as well.
Well, I mean, quite a number of allegations have come up. So I'm hoping that the IGP would address those allegations. I also hope that he would address the implications of the issues alleged on the tape, in terms of what they were plotting to do, etc., etc. I'm wondering if it's also a reflection of the current mood in the police service. Maybe it's not the general mood in the police service. Maybe it's just, quote unquote, a disgruntled few who have an issue with the IGP. But I would expect that he would address all of that, and then give the public some reassurance that we have nothing to worry about going into 2024, because at the end of the parliamentary probe, all the necessary disciplinary actions and other efforts to address whatever issues are emerging in the police service will be taken care of. I wish that the hearing would have been public, just like the hearing for the other police officers, because a lot of these issues were raised in the public space, and so I would have loved for the IGP to respond to them publicly. Now, if there are matters of concern to national security, perhaps if they come up, he could simply say, or the chairman could say, well, for the purpose of national security, you don't have to answer this question, because I think it would also restore some level of trust and confidence in the public, to hear from their top law enforcement officer speak in a public space.
Your score?
My score? I mean, I think overall, from everything that I've been observing, it appears that he's been doing a good job. So let's give him a 9 and see where it goes.
9 over 10. Kwaku Painto, you have the final word on this IGP bit, and then we go on to talk about electoral matters. Your succinct thoughts?
I believe by all accounts, the IGP is a fine gentleman. He's the policeman. And so far, from what I know, he's been doing his work to the very best of his ability. Except to add that everywhere you find yourself doing good work, you must naturally expect there are also people. See, the better you do your work, the more you plug loopholes. Other people are worried and concerned because things that used to be done in a particular way are no longer being done. And that's somebody's source of worry and concern. And in Ghana, we've got what they call the PhD of pulling him down. That's the way we do in this country. That is not to say that he himself is also an angel. But I only say this, what they call it, in a qualified sense that no matter what anybody does, you will always have your own short for your shortcomings and so forth. And so what's going on now, I consider it as very, very healthy for our own national good. That once in a while, however perfect anybody is, we must send a spotlight on the person and see how we can purge even certain things that, in spite of everything, are not so right, and then see how we move on. That is what the whole of governance at any level is done. That you start by making an admission that you are fallible, and all we try and do is to minimize the errors, the mistakes, the shortcomings that are there. So I accept that this must go on. I also agree that the camera part of these meetings or these committees inquiries must be done in camera, as we have said, for security reasons. And it's important that they do it that way. But the assurance is that at the end of the day, we are going to have the full benefit of everything that this committee is doing, and they will use their sense of wisdom to let us know what we need to know. And at the end of it, the police service will move on and move from good to better and to better. That's my view of this matter.